There are books that inform. There are books that entertain. And then, once in a great while, a book arrives that doesn't just offer information or temporary pleasure, it alters the very course of your life. Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramhansa Yogananda is one such timeless masterpiece. It is not just a story of a yogi's life, it's a spiritual gateway, a living scripture that carries a certain vibration, an invisible force that awakens something ancient and eternal within you. From the very first page, it whispers to the deepest part of your being that your life was meant for more than mere survival, more than chasing momentary pleasures, and more than the roles and identities you wear each day. It dares to remind you that you are, in truth, an immortal soul on a divine journey back to your source. For centuries, sages and mystics from India have declared a bold truth: know thyself as soul. This is not poetry or philosophy, it's a living reality waiting for you to claim it. Yogananda's book begins with an honest, heart-stirring confession of a boy born in India, restless and dissatisfied with worldly things, consumed by a longing to find God. What makes this book miraculous is not only the extraordinary miracles, saints, and supernatural occurrences it describes, though those are plenty, but its power to ignite a silent revolution within the reader. It subtly plants a question in your heart: am I just this body and mind? Or am I something far greater, far more luminous? This is the book that Steve Jobs reportedly read every year of his adult life. The Beatles' George Harrison once said it was his constant companion. Millions have stumbled upon it by chance, only to realize it was a message meant for them. Autobiography of a Yogi is more than a book. It's a soul call, an ancient message from eternity to you, delivered in the language of tender human experience and universal wisdom. It reveals that beneath the surface of everyday life lies a mystical reality, accessible to those who dare to seek it. And once you open these pages, something inside you will awaken, and it will never quite fall asleep again. From the earliest pages of Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramhansa Yogananda invites us into the secret landscape of a seeker's heart. He describes his own childhood, not as an ordinary story of growing up, but as a life overshadowed by a constant, almost painful longing for something beyond this world. Even as a little boy in India, surrounded by loving parents, siblings, and the comforts of a good life, Yogananda felt a mysterious inner restlessness. There was a quiet voice inside him, one that many of us have heard at some point in our lives, a subtle feeling that no matter how much the world offers, it can never fully satisfy us. He speaks of staring at the stars at night, wondering what lay beyond, and feeling drawn toward the great unknown. This universal yearning, which many people dismiss or bury beneath daily routines and distractions, is in fact the soul's ancient memory of its true home in the infinite. Yogananda explains that every human being carries within them this subtle homesickness for God, whether they realize it or not. Some feel it as loneliness, others as a vague dissatisfaction even in the midst of success, and still others as an unshakable desire to know life's deeper purpose. What's remarkable is how the book frames this not as a flaw or a weakness, but as a sacred inner calling, the soul's way of reminding us that we are more than what we see in the mirror. Yogananda's early life was filled with small mystical moments, visions, glimpses of saints, and strange coincidences that seemed to pull him toward the spiritual path. These weren't accidents, he explains, but natural signs that when a soul is ready, the universe begins arranging experiences to awaken it. The message for any sincere seeker is clear: if you've ever felt restless, if you've sensed there's something higher waiting for you, you are not alone. That quiet voice inside you is not emptiness, it is a sacred invitation from your own higher self. In these opening chapters, Yogananda gently reassures the reader that this divine restlessness is a gift, not a burden. It is the very thread that will one day lead you home. And as you continue through this book, you'll come to see how every soul, no matter how lost or worldly, carries this hidden spark of longing for the eternal. As Autobiography of a Yogi unfolds, one of its most captivating and mystical elements is Yogananda's encounters with some of the most extraordinary spiritual masters of India. These are not characters from ancient myths, but living saints and sages, real, flesh and blood beings whose lives shine with divine radiance. For any sincere seeker, reading about these masters feels like being invited into a secret world, a realm where the rules of ordinary life no longer apply, and higher laws govern every moment. From his earliest years, Yogananda's soul seemed magnetically drawn to these holy ones. Every meeting with a saint or yogi was like a spark awakening a sleeping memory within him. He tells us of his awestruck visits to great masters like Lahiri Mahashaya, the silent saint whose gaze could lift a soul beyond worldly suffering, and Swami Pranabananda, known as the saint with two bodies because of his ability to be seen in two places at once. Each encounter leaves an imprint on Yogananda's heart, not because of the miracles these masters could perform, but because of the profound love, wisdom, and stillness they radiated. The most important of these sacred meetings, however, was with his own guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar. Their relationship forms one of the most tender and powerful themes of the book. When Yogananda first meets Sri Yukteswar, there's a deep, unspoken recognition, a timeless bond reawakening. Yogananda describes it as a moment where the search of lifetimes finally comes to rest. Sri Yukteswar's eyes, calm and ocean-like, seem to gaze directly into his soul, dispelling doubt and fear. What makes these encounters so meaningful is how they reveal a profound spiritual truth: the path to God is never walked alone. Divine help is always sent to those who sincerely seek it. Sometimes this comes in the form of books, teachings, or inner intuition, but often it arrives through the grace of a guru, a living, awakened being who serves as a mirror for your highest self. Yogananda's experiences remind the reader that when the soul's longing is pure and persistent, the universe quietly arranges meetings and moments that gently guide us back to our source. It is a beautiful promise for every seeker, that no cry for the eternal ever goes unanswered. Among the many treasures within Autobiography of a Yogi, perhaps the most precious is Yogananda's introduction to the sacred science of Kriya Yoga. This is not merely a meditation technique or a collection of breathing exercises. Kriya Yoga is described as a royal highway to God, a profound and ancient spiritual practice that allows sincere seekers to directly experience the infinite within their own being. Yogananda explains that for centuries this method was kept secret, passed quietly from master to disciple, hidden from the casual seeker and preserved for those whose longing for truth was deep and unshakable. Kriya Yoga works through the subtle control of life energy, or prana, within the spine and brain. Yogananda reveals that by withdrawing this energy from the senses and restless mind, and directing it inward through precise techniques, a practitioner can accelerate spiritual evolution. He poetically describes it as burning away the seeds of past karma, allowing the soul to escape the cycles of birth and death much faster than through ordinary methods of prayer and devotion alone. This is why his guru, Sri Yukteswar, referred to it as the airplane route to God, a direct and swift path for those ready to move beyond the illusions of the material world. What makes this section of the book so powerful is not just the explanation of Kriya Yoga's mechanics, but the deep reverence with which Yogananda speaks of it. He treats the practice not as a commodity or a technique to be casually experimented with, but as a sacred transmission, a gift from the great masters, intended only for those who approach it with humility and sincerity. Yogananda emphasizes that the true purpose of Kriya is not to gain mystical powers or escape worldly troubles, but to achieve self-realization, the direct and personal experience of one's unity with the infinite spirit. For the seeker, this section is a reminder that spiritual awakening is not a vague hope or distant dream. It is a living possibility, accessible through disciplined effort and the grace of a true teacher. Yogananda's tender, loving descriptions of the peace and bliss born from deep meditation offer hope to every restless heart. The message is clear: there is a way out of suffering, and it lies not in the outer world, but in the silent sanctum of your own inner self. As Autobiography of a Yogi continues, it unveils some of the most extraordinary, wondrous, and almost unbelievable events ever recorded in spiritual literature. But what makes these accounts so meaningful is not their miraculous nature alone, it's the deep spiritual truth they quietly point toward. Yogananda shares stories of saints who defy the ordinary laws of nature, a holy woman who lived without food for decades, yogis who could appear in two places at once, masters who could heal the sick with a mere touch, and others who knew events before they happened. Yet Yogananda is careful to remind the reader that these miracles are not the goal of spiritual life. They are simply signposts along the path, evidence of higher laws at work, and hints of what lies beyond the veil of material existence. One of the most unforgettable moments in the book is Yogananda's description of his meeting with Babaji, the mysterious deathless master who has guided India's spiritual evolution for centuries. Babaji appears and disappears at will, materializing his form like a thought made visible. Yogananda narrates this and other miraculous events not to impress or entertain, but to show readers that the universe is not as rigid and limited as it appears. The so-called laws of nature are not final laws, but temporary agreements made by consciousness. He explains that the more one identifies with the body and the senses, the more bound one is by physical laws. But as a soul rises in awareness, merging with higher states of consciousness, it begins to command the subtle forces that shape the visible world. Yogananda beautifully states, the universe is a dream in the mind of God. When a yogi awakens from this cosmic dream, they no longer experience the world as solid, fixed, and absolute. They see it as energy, and energy as thought. From that perspective, what we call miracles are natural, effortless expressions of divine will flowing through a purified consciousness. For the seeker, this section isn't just a collection of entertaining stories, it's an invitation to question the apparent limitations of your own life. It gently asks you to consider, what if the world isn't what it seems? What if your true nature is boundless, luminous, and far beyond the body you inhabit? Yogananda assures you that these higher realities aren't reserved for saints alone. They are your birthright. At the heart of Autobiography of a Yogi lies one of the book's most tender, sacred, and transformative teachings, the timeless bond between guru and disciple. In this section, Yogananda beautifully reveals that the spiritual path is not meant to be walked alone. While books, prayers, and inner yearning are valuable, there comes a point on the seeker's journey when the soul must be guided by a living embodiment of truth, a guru. Not just a teacher in the academic sense, but a being who has realized God, and whose sole purpose is to lovingly lead others to that same realization. Yogananda's relationship with his guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar, is one of the most touching and profound elements of the book. From the very first moment they meet, there is a deep, silent recognition. Yogananda describes it as a moment when the search of many lifetimes came to an end. Sri Yukteswar was not the gentle, indulging type one might imagine, but a firm, clear, and infinitely compassionate master who shaped Yogananda's restless mind and ego with wisdom, discipline, and unconditional love. Through this relationship, readers are shown that the Guru's role is not to grant wishes or offer constant comfort, but to act as a divine mirror, reflecting back both a disciple's flaws and their highest, forgotten potential. One of the most valuable insights Yogananda shares is that a true Guru does not take away the disciple's problems but awakens the inner strength to rise above them. Through loving correction, subtle guidance, and silent transmission of grace, the Guru dissolves the disciple's ignorance and prepares them to receive the highest wisdom. Yogananda recounts how his own stubbornness and doubts were patiently and firmly handled by Sri Yukteswar, and how every hardship ultimately became a blessing. For the sincere seeker, this section offers a gentle but powerful truth. When your longing for God is deep and genuine, the universe sends help in the form of a guru. Sometimes this may be an enlightened soul you meet in person. Other times it may come through a book, a teaching, or even an inner voice. The essential point is that divine guidance is always available to those who are ready to receive it. Yogananda's story reminds us that the Guru is not an ordinary person, but a manifestation of divine love, sent to lead the soul home. As Autobiography of a Yogi nears its closing chapters, Paramhansa Yogananda gracefully expands his personal journey into a universal message meant for every human being. He leaves the reader with a profound realization: the ultimate purpose of life is to know God, and to realize that God dwells within you. No matter your religion, nationality, or background, the inner journey to experience your true self is the birthright of every soul. Yogananda's time in America, where he introduced yoga and meditation to the Western world, becomes a powerful symbol of the book's most important truth: God is not a distant being, but the ever-present reality within each heart, waiting to be discovered. Yogananda lovingly breaks down the illusion that spiritual awakening belongs to one religion, culture, or class of people. He reminds us that the same divine presence lives in the temples of India, the cathedrals of Europe, the mosques of Arabia, and the silent forests and mountains of every land. Quoting the ancient sages, he declares, "Truth is one. Sages call it by many names." This universal spirituality, free of rigid dogma and sectarian barriers, is what makes Autobiography of a Yogi not just a religious text, but a living guide for the soul. Yogananda's invitation is not theoretical or symbolic. He insists that every person can, through sincere effort, meditation, and love for God, directly experience the divine within their own consciousness. He explains how peace, wisdom, and bliss are not things to be sought outside but are already waiting inside us, hidden beneath the restless waves of the mind and ego. Through the sacred science of meditation and a life guided by inner stillness, anyone can realize this truth. For the sincere seeker, this final message is both a comfort and a call to action. It assures you that you are not a small, limited being destined to suffer and struggle. You are a soul, immortal and infinite, temporarily playing a human role in the grand play of life. Yogananda's life and teachings reveal that enlightenment is not a distant hope reserved for a chosen few, but a real and living possibility for you, here and now. The book's closing chapters leave you with a sense of quiet awe and a subtle inner stirring, the feeling that your true home lies not in this world but in the vast, radiant presence of the infinite. As you close the final pages of Autobiography of a Yogi, you realize it isn't just a book you've read, it's a living experience that has quietly touched something eternal within you. This is not the kind of story you finish and forget. It lingers in the heart, gently altering your perspective on life, death, and everything in between. Yogananda's words awaken an ancient, silent longing, a subtle but undeniable awareness that beneath all your roles, routines, and desires, you are a soul on a sacred journey home to the infinite. This book is a quiet call from eternity, a gentle reminder that there is a deeper purpose to your life. All the restlessness you've felt, the unanswered questions, the fleeting joys and quiet sorrows, they are not meaningless. They are the soul's way of guiding you inward, toward the lasting peace and boundless love that only the realization of your own divinity can bring. Yogananda makes it beautifully clear: no matter who you are or where you come from, the path to self-realization is open to you. The eternal is not far away. It is waiting within you, closer than your next breath. If something within you stirred as you listened to these words, a quiet sense of wonder, a sudden curiosity about meditation, or a gentle desire to know more about your own soul, honor that. It's no accident you've encountered these teachings. Life has a mysterious way of bringing the right words and wisdom when the soul is ready to receive them. I warmly invite you to not let this moment pass. Take a little time to reflect in stillness. Perhaps pick up the book yourself, begin a meditation practice, or simply sit in silence beneath the stars, as young Yogananda did, and ask life's simplest, deepest question, who am I? And if this message touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment and share what part of this journey spoke to you most. Which teaching, which moment, or which realization awakened something inside you? Your words might just inspire another seeker walking the same invisible path. If you are ready, the path is open. The Guru is waiting. And your soul already knows the way.